Welcome to episode 4 of Sustainably Speaking, the podcast where we break down the sustainability topics that matter, clearly, practically, and without unnecessary complexity. Today, we are looking ahead to what companies in Luxembourg and across the EU should expect after the summer break. ESG regulation has been moving fast, but not always in a straight line.
Exactly. Over the past several months, we've had simplification, postponement, new thresholds, revised reporting expectations, new anti-greenwashing rules, and more focus on social topics, in particular things like pay transparency. So the question for companies is not only what new regulation is coming, it's not that simple, it's also what has changed, what's been delayed, and what do we still need to prepare for.
To help us unpack this, we are joined by Guillaume, consultant and part of our video team here in Luxembourg. Guillaume, welcome to Sustainably Speaking.
Thank you, Fanny, and thank you, Malcolm. I'm very happy to be here.
Great to have you with us this time. And maybe before we go into E, S, and G, let's set the scene. So if we speak about companies today, from your recent interactions, Guillaume, what would you say is the mood in the corporate community? Is it relief? Is it confusion? Is there still some urgency there? Or is it a bit of a mix?
I'd probably say all three. So some companies feel relieved because of the simplification discussions at the EU level. Others are kind of confused because of the timelines and the thresholds that are constantly moving. But the important point is that ESG regulation is not disappearing. It's becoming more targeted, more evidence-based, and in many areas, it's also more operational.
So today we will look at this through the 3 ESG pillars and what companies should prepare for after the summer break. Let's start with the environmental pillar. The key message is that E is no longer only about climate reporting. Companies are increasingly expected to understand the environmental impacts of their products, supply chains, and public claims.
And I think that's where, certainly in our experience, a lot of the confusion exists. A lot of organizations hear the word simplification and assume that environmental requirements are being reduced or delayed.
Exactly. Simplification does not mean that sustainability obligations are disappearing. It means that organizations need to focus on the topics that are material to them and also ensure the information they provide is supported by evidence.
A good example is the Empowering Consumers Directive, which is designed to address greenwashing and misleading environmental claims.
Yep. So if a company says a product is green or sustainable or climate friendly, eco-friendly, the question becomes very simple. Can they prove it?
Exactly. And the review should go beyond just the sustainability reports. Companies should also be looking at the websites, marketing materials, product descriptions, and customer communications to really ensure that their claims are accurate and substantiated.
Another important development is also the packaging and packaging waste regulation.
For many organizations, this means gaining a better understanding of the packaging they place on the market, the materials that they use, and the information available from suppliers. What sounds like an environmental topic often becomes a procurement and data management exercise.
And we should also keep regulations like CBAM and the EU deforestation regulation on the radar. Different regulations, but similar challenge. And remember, if you want to know more about CBAM, that was the focus of our episode 1 podcast. So go back there to listen for more detail.
Yeah, and among all of these regulations, the common theme is traceability. Companies should increasingly have visibility over the supply chains, their sourcing practices, and also the environmental data.
So if we had to summarize the environmental pillar in one sentence.
I'd say the environmental agenda is moving from reporting to actual proof.
Yeah, so proof of claims, proof of sourcing, proof of supplier information, and proof of environmental performance. And worth noting as well that these regulations tend to apply across the value chain, so it might not always be completely obvious that you are within scope.
And that should be the key area of focus after the summer break for the companies that are concerned.
Yeah, so let's move on to social. Historically, organizations have tended to view S as the sort of less technical component of ESG, but that is beginning to change.
One of the clearest examples is the EU Pay Transparency Directive.
Absolutely. The directive increases expectations around transparency, equal pay, and workforce data. Organizations need to understand how pay decisions are made and whether those decisions can be explained in an objective manner.
Yeah, and that kind of turns it from just a simple HR topic into a much broader corporate governance consideration.
Exactly. It touches upon governance, reporting, risk management, and leadership accountability. So reliable workforce data is becoming increasingly more important.
And now that you mentioned workforce, another major topic is forced labor.
Yeah, and although some companies see that as a future issue, something to be dealt with at another time, preparation really needs to start now.
That's right. The challenge is not the regulation itself, I'd say. It's more of understanding your supply chain well enough to identify risks and demonstrate appropriate controls.
Guillaume, in other words, organizations need to know where products come from, who is involved in production of those products, and what checks have been performed or are needed to be performed.
Yeah,
in that context.
absolutely. Okay, so and to shift topic a little bit, we should also mention for our listeners the Women on Boards initiative, which focuses on diversity and representation in leadership as well.
Yeah, and all of these recent developments together, they show that the social topics are becoming more and more measurable and more evidence-driven. It's no longer enough to state values and commitments, but companies increasingly need data, processes, and accountability behind them.
And for companies subject to sustainability reporting requirements, social topics may also become reportable and auditable where they are material.
Yeah, so the key social takeaway is clear. Organizations need to strengthen their workforce data because that underpins everything we've just talked about. Review people-related processes that produces the data, if you like, and understand the human rights risks across their value chain, which obviously means you need to understand your value chain properly too.
Good. Let's turn to governance, the pillar that connects everything we've discussed so far.
Yeah, and probably the area where we have seen the greatest uncertainty recently is particularly around CSRD, CS-D, and the impact of the omnibus simplification package.
Yes, that's for sure. And we've seen that last week we've had the ESRS simplifications that have come out. So despite the ongoing discussions, the overall direction remains the same. Companies need clear ownership, reliable data, and effective ESG governance.
I have a question. So, should companies continue preparing or should they wait
Yeah.
based on what we discussed?
And we hear that all the time from
Mhm.
clients, and the answer is typically the same. Adjust where necessary, but don't stop what you're doing. ultimately.
Exactly.
Yeah, even when the reporting requirements evolve, ESG information continues to be requested by investors, clients, lenders, often parent companies, but also other stakeholders.
And governance ultimately comes down to responsibility. So, who owns the ESG data? Who approves external sustainability claims? Who manages supply risks?
Yeah, and that's often why governance is described as or something akin to the operating system behind ESG, the framework that pulls everything together.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to repeat myself again, but after the summer break, I'd say that organizations should really focus on ESG ownership, the quality of the data, what internal controls they have in place, and also have cross-functional collaboration. So make sure that the right team is involved.
Indeed, because ESG readiness is not the responsibility of one team.
Hmm.
It involves sustainability, for example, finance, HR, legal, procurement, compliance, communication, and leadership.
So, if we summarize today's discussion across the three ESG pillars, on the environmental side, companies should continue preparing CSRD related, well, not just environmental, but environmental, social, and governance reporting, but also for a more product level and supply chain driven obligations, including, as we said, the Empowering Consumers Directive, CBAM, PBWR, EU Deforestation, and all the other acronyms. Guillaume, on the social side, what would you say?
Yeah, on the social side, I'd say that we've seen the pay transparency, the forced labor, and also the women on boards requirements. They really show that workforce, human rights, and leadership topics are becoming more and more measurable, but also legally relevant.
Lastly, on the governance side, companies should monitor the evolution of the regulatory pieces like CSRD, CSDDD, and really have a look on the timing of transposition in Luxembourgish law while improving ownership controls and decision making.
Yeah, but the common message across all of that and everything we've talked about is that simplification does not mean inaction. The direction of travel, as Guillaume said, is very clear. Everything continues to move, and no one should stop what they're doing 100%.
Yeah, so companies that will use their time in the coming months wisely to organize their data and clarify responsibilities and prepare actually their teams for what comes ahead will be in a much stronger position after the summer break and beyond.
Yeah, and I think that's probably quite a good place to finish up. First of all, thank you, Guillaume, for sharing your insights.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
And thank you all for listening to another episode of Sustainably Speaking. And as always, if you want to find out more about how your organization can prepare for anything that we've just discussed in Luxembourg or in the wider EU, please don't be afraid to reach out. In the next episode, we're going to focus a little bit more on sustainable finance.
Till then, stay green.